Patel is absolutely right. And the president just put out a very strong statement condemning this attack. This terrorist came into our country under the previous administration. Joe Biden's administration foolishly gave him a tourist visa and that allowed him to unlawfully remain in our country. This individual should have been deported. Instead, he was welcomed here. And now, 3 years later, after coming to this country under Joe Biden's administration, he is lighting Jewish people on fire who were simply trying to peacefully pay respect to the hostages in Israel. This absolutely is an act of targeted terrorism. The FBI and the Department of Justice are investigating it as such, and the president is going to ensure that this individual is held to the fullest extent of the law. And not just this individual, but any individual, especially illegal criminals who engage in acts of terrorism, will be held accountable under this president.
Caroline.
State and local law enforcement when it comes to working with federal authorities. State and local law enforcement in Colorado will now be fined $50,000 if they share information with Immigration and Customs. And since this individual that committed this heinous crime overstayed a visa, is in the country illegally, that means that this is a situation where sharing information is potentially off limits. And so when it comes to being able to prevent something like this from happening, if state and local law enforcement can't work with their federal counterparts to put together that big picture to intervene before something like that happens, this is something where sanctuary states are clearly implicated. And unfortunately, among other things, it's why Colorado is the second most dangerous state in the country right now.
And how we got here. It's because the left loves open borders, they love unlimited immigration, and they love anti-Israel radicalism. And under Biden, all their dreams came true. More than 10 million, well, we'll never really know the real number, of illegal border crossers, gotaways, refugees, special category parolees, and visa overstayers poured into the country. It's a figure so vast that it overwhelms the systems that we have in place to process these people.
Right, Bill, and more than that, this is another example of innocent civilians, innocent citizens who have been victim to a broken immigration system and a lack of enforcement of the laws on the books. This man was in the country illegally, had overstayed a visa. It was pretty telling. It should have been a red flag when he filed for asylum exactly 1 month after receiving his temporary visa. But again, he overstayed his visa when it expired. And the thing that is very telling to me is not only have we seen a rise in anti-Semitism around the country, on college campuses and elsewhere, but you see how many people are watching this attack take place. Not one person is stepping up. This is a gun-free zone, and he was able to continue his act of violence unfettered. Absolutely unacceptable. We have got to up the deportations, and we have got to do everything we can to make our communities safe again.
Death toll is now at least 92 from yesterday's twin attacks in Norway.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit.
Gunmen with Kalashnikovs reported and killing several on the scene in the most horrifying attack of all.
Oh my God! What? Oh
in Tel Aviv, another bomb goes off.
How can they do that? How can they do that?
Lost. People here still trying to make sense of it all. Late tonight, the police said that 80 people at the summer camp were killed.
'50s, '60s, and '70s. Where I would say the characteristic weapon of the terrorist is the AK-47 that even became part of the flag of Hezbollah. More recently, in the last several decades, I would say the dominant terrorist weapon has been, unfortunately, the car bomb, often driven by a suicide bomber into a crowd of people. Jihadists have become the dominant terrorist since 1979. In the 1980s, you saw the formation of groups such as Al-Qaeda. You really saw the Middle East becoming the epicenter of terrorism, and driven primarily by Palestinian groups, especially the PLO, which suddenly saw terrorism as their ticket to statehood and the way to get the world to pay attention to their grievances. I think the principal terrorist threats confronting the U.S. and the world today are all Islamist, and they are groups that are based in this arc of instability stretching from West Africa to Central Asia and including pretty much all of North Africa and the greater Middle East, from Boko Haram in Nigeria to Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula in Yemen to ISIS and the Al-Nusra Front in Syria to Pakistan and Afghanistan, groups like the Taliban and the Haqqani network. The internet allows terrorists not only to publicize their atrocities, but also to recruit, to organize, to train. So it's a much more capable medium for terrorist organizations than television ever was. I think fundamentally to dry up the sources of jihadist terrorism requires a more modern ideology that puts the emphasis on economic growth and personal liberty rather than the kind of hopelessness and despair of poverty and repression which breeds extremism, which leads many young men to take up arms or to strap on suicide vests. The answer to the problem of Islamist terrorism is a transformation in the Muslim world, but that's going to be a decades-long, maybe a centuries-long project, and we're only going to be able to influence that at the margins.